Hello, you're watching Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson. Now, the summer is here. Time for holidays for some, perhaps. But as we know, the economy never takes a break. This summer, there's big economic news in Europe. In particular, Greece formally exiting its bailout programme, an ongoing trade war between the EU and the US, not to mention plans to overhaul the Eurozone. I'm joined today from Brussels by the head of the Eurogroup. That's the group of Eurozone finance ministers that shapes policy for the 19 countries that currently use the single currency. Mario Centeno, thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in your program as well.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to start first with a bit of a headline that we've had from the European Commission. It's just released its interim summer economic forecast. This is for the whole EU, not just the Eurozone, but the overall headline applies. It was resilient growth, which is good, amid increased uncertainty, not so good. Good and bad, uncertainty in which areas for Europe?
There are indeed some uncertainties that now are the focus of our forecasts. But nevertheless, as you just said, the forecast is a good forecast. It shows resilience in growth for the euro area. Growth will remain strong above 2%. It's also widespread across countries. These are good economic momentum for Europe. The uncertainties and the risks, they come mainly from the political area. We are facing tough decisions on trade with Brexit. We need to cope with those, and the economy is proving resilient in any case.
Now, well, before we get into the nitty-gritty of Eurozone news, a quick word perhaps on Donald Trump. The US president has been in Europe for the last few days. Now, while he's been here, he's talked about some of the things you mentioned. He's attacked Theresa May's Brexit plans. We know there's this ongoing trade situation with the EU. He's also pulled the US out of the nuclear deal with Iran, putting European business in Iran in question. Would you say that Donald Trump represents a risk to the European economy?
Well, the decisions that we face may present a risk to the economic recovery of Europe, indeed, and I am pretty much convinced that at the end of the day, they will not produce desired results for the US neither. So we need to reconsider these decisions. We need to work in a multilateral way, bringing together our countries and economies together again, and put a hand to this what seems to be a war trade in the making.
OK, so more solidarity from Europe then. Well, this is a situation that Europe finds itself in that everyone in the EU said they didn't want to get into. I'll just give a reminder to the viewers, Donald Trump imposed higher trade tariffs on imports of certain European goods, from steel to cars. Our reporters have been looking back on how previous trade wars have played out.
We're going to fight for American workers and American-made steel.
Donald Trump is not the first president to impose tariffs in an effort to revive the American steel industry. Most recently, former President Barack Obama imposed tariffs on certain steel products used in auto manufacturing to curb Chinese imports. But the most similar tariff to Trump's came in 2002, when former President George W. Bush raised duties on steel ranging from 8% to 30%. Like Trump, Bush faced immediate criticism from trading partners over the decision, especially from the EU and Japan. In the end, the backlash led Bush to remove the tariffs after just 18 months. And the results weren't what he'd hoped for. A 2003 study found that the duties may have created 3,500 temporary steel jobs, but each job cost consumers $400,000. According to another 2003 study, 200,000 jobs were lost in non-steel manufacturing because of the tariff. Ultimately, more jobs were lost than created. A problem former President Ronald Reagan ran into as well in trade actions against Japanese dumping. In 1981, Reagan imposed an annual quota on Japanese car imports. This to boost American car companies like Ford and General Motors. U.S. car makers responded by lowering production to help boost car prices. As a result, car companies pulled in record profits. But less production meant less workers, meant less jobs. In just 2 years, from 1982 to 1984, the U.S. auto industry lost over 60,000 jobs. Another mixed bag of results that may foreshadow the net effects of Trump's tariffs.
Mario Centeno, we just had a look back there on some former trade war situations. You said earlier this summer, after a Eurogroup meeting, that trade tensions are a particular factor in raising global and domestic risks. What's your prediction about how much damage this current trade war situation will do to Europe?
I think we still have time to work on these issues and to understand the need to change the course of the most recent decisions. In that respect, as the forecast of the European Commission shows, we have resilient economies. They are responding very well to these challenges. I am very much optimistic that we can find a way to minimize the impact that these events may have if we continue in this way in the future. So it's up to us.
Well, Donald Trump, I think, has shown us that he's nothing if not unpredictable. It is anyone's guess, I think, perhaps how long this is going to go on. Do you expect a trade war to impact growth in the Eurozone? Are you anticipating measures to mitigate against that?
At this stage is still a risk. We don't have a clear measurement of the impacts that may have already materialized, and we have to work to avoid the risks. That's what we do when we make decisions and work with other countries, as I just said, in a multilateral way to bring our economies forward. The concerns, we can share the concerns with the U.S. on how to take a balanced approach on trade, and we think that if we work together to change the course of the most recent decisions, those risks will not materialize, and we can overcome these apparent difficulties.
All right, well, let's move on to some news right within the Eurozone now. Greece, as I mentioned, one of the big stories of the summer for Europe, economy-wise, exiting its bailout measures. But is it really the end of the crisis for Greece? It's getting a new tranche of money from the EU, and it is going to have certain surveillance measures. It's going to have to implement certain policies. Yeah,
this to change the scenario. If we talk on Greece, these are great news for Europe. Those are fantastic news for Greece. They will exit the program on August the 20th. I think the Greek economy, the Greek society have now the instruments. They implemented the reforms that allowed the Greek economy to grow on a sustainable path, and to the Greek authorities to take full ownership of the future, and this is very important for everyone.
Talking about the Greek authorities taking ownership, Greece has agreed to undergo years of supervision called enhanced surveillance. What does that mean? How much independence will the Greek government have in the future in how it runs its own economy?
Post-program surveillance is not exclusive to Greece. Other program countries like Ireland, Spain, Portugal, Cyprus, they also are under this type of post-program surveillance. And the success of the exit process for Greece depends a lot on the post-program period. I often cite two tests very important for Greece, which is all this process of reforms and recovery to be resilient across political cycles, across economic cycles. This is the next stage for Greece. And believe me, this is not a program. So let's make it completely clear. And it really entails an all new stage for the Greek crisis. It is the program period is over. Let's face this new stage with also a great deal of optimism and ownership for the Greek authorities.
You mentioned Ireland just then, another country that had a bailout during the crisis. There's been a report recently on its post-bailout economic health. The Eurogroup encouraging Ireland, in its words, to pursue policies to safeguard against external risks. Now, Ireland has been particularly in the news for many months now with this uncertainty over what's going to happen to its border after the UK leaves the EU, how goods and people are going to cross that border. Do you see Brexit as a concrete risk to the Irish economy at this point with that uncertainty remaining?
Yes. Ireland is doing great in terms of economic performance. This is the conclusion of the post-program review that we analyzed in yesterday's Eurogroup meeting. But you're right, Ireland is facing risks. Those are political and external risks, but very important for Ireland. That's why also in the Eurogroup yesterday we mentioned the need to take those into account. Even in very good economic moments, we need always to direct our attention and our economic policies to make ourselves more robust and to shield our economies from these risks. Our evaluation is that Ireland will be able to cope with those, but we need to be prepared.
All right, well, let's continue looking to the future for the last couple of minutes we have on this interview. There is a lot of talk at the moment about Eurozone reform. The EU19 leaders from the Eurozone have discussed deeper integration at the latest Council summit, but it seems there's really no consensus on which path to take. We've got the Austrian Chancellor saying, you know, more cooperation between banks, but definitely no further sharing of debt on a European level. There's arguments about a Eurozone budget as well. What kind of deeper integration looks doable from where you're standing?
We have now a clear mandate. The Euro Summit issued for the Eurogroup a very clear mandate, and we have very important contributions to work with. Certainly, the Meseberg Declaration and the agreement between Germany and France is a key part of these contributions. But there are also contributions from the Commission and the debate we need to continue at Eurogroup. We cannot lose momentum because our time window now extends until December. We must remain focused. The agenda is set. finalizing the banking union, reinforcing the ESM, and dealing with fiscal capacity for the euro area, and all countries around the table know precisely what are the issues at stake. We need to be focused, and I think we will be able to make progress in the months to come. The ambition that some of the European leaders shown recently is very important. Of course, I can certainly mention President Macron's ambition into this agenda. We need to take up on this ambition and this leadership to finalize an agreement by December.
All right, well, we'll have to look ahead to those meetings yet to come. December, a big deadline, of course, as you say. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for talking to us, Mario Centeno.
Thank you very much. And I am very much looking forward for the next semester to complete all this agenda and to be able to see the materialization of this optimism into these subjects.
Well, we like to finish on an optimistic note. Thank you so much. And thanks as well to our viewers for watching. Thank you. We'll see you in the next part of our programme. Don't go away.